Audio made possible by www.jackettome.com. Audio Fanfiction Productions presents Wide Awake. Fanfiction written by Angskata003. Fanfiction inspired by the Twilight Saga written by Stephanie Meyer. Chapter 22. Frosted Pecan Patience. Bella's point of view. In the 3rd grade, I made honor roll, and my mom got me a new puppy. And I was so excited about it that I spent the entire day squealing and jumping all over the house, like a miniature Alice on crack, and just scaring the crap out of that poor little puppy. That same night I got cake and ice cream, and I went to bed on a sugar high, hugging my new puppy, and just plain loving my life. It felt like the best night of my life. Until last night. Because when Edward Cullen told me I was beautiful, it effectively moved my puppy night down a notch. And as if him just saying that wasn't enough to completely make my year, he wanted to try. He didn't come right out and say exactly what he wanted to try, but I understood. He wanted to try to be with me the way I always wanted to be with him. And then he kissed me, and not because he pitied me, and not because I forced him into it, but because he just wanted to. He was scared, and I could tell. And I wanted to just tell him that there was nothing he could possibly do to make me turn away from him. But if I was being honest with myself, I was a little scared too. Because all my excitement scared that poor little puppy, and I didn't have him long enough to even give him a name. So as I started humming Edward to sleep, I promised myself I wouldn't scare him away. As much as I wanted to call him my boyfriend, or give what we had some kind of label, and giggle with Alice about all of our kisses, I knew I had to be patient. So I would do exactly like he asked, and just let it come. We woke up to the alarm again, and it felt really cold outside of the covers. I could feel Edward breathing into my hair still. I smiled against his chest and gave him the squeeze that always said, "I don't want you to pull away." If I didn't know my dreams better, I would have thought the whole night was just one big dream. And before Edward did his usual morning groan, he nuzzled further into my hair, and gave me a soft kiss on the top of my head. Then he groaned and pulled away. But I was okay with that. Because I was being patient, and just letting it come. Reluctant to feel the cold chill in the dark room, I slowly rolled out of bed, and shuffled to the sofa. It took Edward longer than usual to beat the alarm clock into submission. I went into the bathroom while Edward ran his fingers through his hair, letting him wake up. My hair was terrifying. I think I had hair curling upwards. All tangled, and still warm from Edward's breathing. I got dressed quickly, just needing to start the day. I pulled my hoodie on, and brushed my teeth, smiling when I put the Bluetooth brush back in its place, right next to Edward's. When I came out, Edward was still running his fingers through his hair, and obviously very groggy. It was cold, so I put my hood up, and tried to do everything just like normal. I got my bag from the sofa, and shuffled to the bedside table, still kind of waking up. I pulled out his bag of cookies, and dropped them next to the alarm clock. I chanced to peek at Edward in the bed, still lying under the warm covers. He was lying on his back, still running his fingers through his messy bronze hair, but his eyes were open, and he was staring at me intensely. Suddenly I got an irrational panic that he was backing out of the whole thing. In the harsh light of day he realized I really wasn't beautiful at all. And before I could give myself a complete heart attack over the entire notion, he lifted his hand up from his hair, waved me over. Skeptically, I got closer to the bed, wondering exactly how close he wanted me to get. But he didn't lower his hand any, so I lifted mine and climbed up beside him, leaning back on my ankles at his side with my palms on the bed. Finally he sat up, never breaking my nervous gaze, and reached his hand up to pull my hood down and free all my tangled curls. After the hood was off, he slowly moved his hand to cup my cheek, just like before, rubbing gently with his thumb. He just stared into my eyes intensely for a few seconds before he leaned into my face. I thought for a moment he was going to kiss me again, and my breath hitched as I stared into his intense green eyes, and I let my eyes flutter closed, parting my lips slightly by instinct. But instead he leaned into my free cheek, and grazed it lightly with his lips and nose, holding them there so I could feel his hot breath wash over my face, as he rubbed the other cheek with his thumb. He kissed it softly before trailing the tip of his nose across my cheek, and over my jaw, into all my tangled curls until his nose reached the top of my ear. He nuzzled my ear lightly through all my curls, and I could hear his lips part as he began to speak.
I hate that fucking hood.
He breathed through my hair into my ear, and then flopped back down onto the bed, once again running his fingers through his hair with his eyes closed. I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding, and scurried off the bed with a flaming face. I shuffled out the French doors into the cold December morning air, and let it cool my hot cheeks, while I climbed down the lattice with a goofy grin on my face. I stalked across the yard to my house, and quietly entered the kitchen, closing it behind me with my usual quiet click, and making my way to my bathroom to take my morning shower. I grimaced at my hair again in the mirror, but smiled a little too. My face was still a little red from the cheek kiss. I got under the steaming hot water of my shower, and finally allowed myself the excited squeal I had been holding in for the last 7 hours. I felt kind of stupid for being so excited, but I just couldn't help it. I cooked for Alice and me, like usual, and we sat around the kitchen discussing all the holiday decorations Alice was forcing us to put up that day. She had diagrams of light displays, and lists of garland and tinsel, cunningly marking the most efficient locations to hang decorations without compromising the drywall. It was all a bit ridiculous. I lovingly dubbed her the Christmas Nazi, and as a punishment, I was in charge of untangling all of the strands of lights that kind of reminded me of having to brush my hair out that morning. At noon, Alice was screeching over the phone to Emmett, who had been bribed into transporting the freakishly large Christmas tree from the lot to our house in his Jeep. And because of that, I was now making 6 bags of frosted pecan patience tonight. I didn't mind, in fact I quite enjoyed the idea of making Emmett a bag of cookies every day. I still felt awful about the handshaking incident. And Alice was using my cookies as her secret weapon for everything. It made me snicker at her. When Emmett finally arrived carrying the tree, I stood in the far corner of the room, offering him a smile and a nod as hello, which he returned. He put the tree in 6 different places, before Alice was finally satisfied she found the optimal location for the impact of maximal holiday cheer. Ridiculous. By 3 in the afternoon, our house looked like a disturbingly mutated version of the North Pole, and I was swearing that, if I ever had to touch another Christmas light again, I was going to go even more insane than I already was. When I finally got a chance to slow down and think, I spent the rest of the day thinking about Edward and everything he had said the night before. And I didn't even have to ask Alice to do my hair again, or even agree to it. Because she basically forced me to the vanity in her room, telling me about how much curls were in for the Christmas season. I think she was trying to coordinate me with the Christmas decorations. I certainly felt like one.
Edward's point of view. After Bella left, I just fucking laid in bed the whole morning thinking, and waiting for my very first case ever of raging morning wood to subside. That was going to be a problem. And one I had never had to deal with before. Now I was pulling away for much different reasons. Everything was so fucking new and confusing, and I had no idea where to go with any of it, and I was so terrified I was going to ruin everything. And really, I just wanted someone to vent it all out to. And I couldn't do it with my girl. So I had to go to the only other motherfucker who knew about our situation. And I was going to have to eat a massive amount of crow. Because I kept telling him it wasn't like that. And now it fucking was. Dreading the upcoming conversation, I dragged my ass out of bed and got dressed, throwing on my leather jacket and boots. Emmett had gone to fetch Brandon a Christmas tree or some shit, and Carlisle was at the hospital, so I locked the house up and made my way over to Jess's house. I didn't call first because he never fucking cared. I figured if Brandon needed a tree today, she was occupied with decorating in her usual horrendous fashion, so he'd be home, and bored as hell. When I pulled up